Kashmir has known to be a region rifled with instability and violence. Popular narratives of Kashmir erase the history of colonial and settler violence perpetrated on Kashmiris by the Indian state within their fight to the right to self-determination. Here is a look at Kashmir's history. After the brutal partition of India and Pakistan by the British colonial regime in 1997, in 1949, India and Pakistan agreed to the division of Kashmir, where two-thirds of Kashmir would be under India's control, while one-third of Kashmir was administered to Pakistan. India took control of the central and south Kashmir, Jammu, and the Ladakh region, while Pakistan took control of North Kashmir, which was Gilgit and Baltistan, now referred to as Azad Kashmir. Meanwhile, the region of Aksal Chin remains disputed between India and China. Kashmir's history is tied to the rule of British India, which consists of modern-day India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. The British monarchy, including the East India Company, were present in India until driven out by anti-colonial resistance in 1947. 1947 also marks the partition of India and Pakistan over communalism and religious tensions. Kashmir's significance in the partition remains that it is the only Muslim-majority state within India that is technically a secular state, but rife with Hindu nationalism and Hindu majoritarianism. Kashmir has been a point of contestation and tension between both countries. The line of control between India and Pakistan is situated within Kashmir. However, Kashmiris themselves have been at the brunt of the brutality of both nation-states, particularly India, whose heavy military presence in the region makes it the most militarized zone in the world. Kashmir's modern history consisted of feudal rule of Mughal and Sikh kings. The Sikh Empire of Jammu and Kashmir lost the land under the Anglo-Sikh War of 1845 to 1846 between the East India Company and the Sikh Empire. The Sikh Empire had to hand over the Kashmir to the East India Company in 1846. Later that year, Hindu king Maharaja Gulab Singh bought the Kashmir Valley from the East India Company and formed the state of Jammu and Kashmir under the feudal oppression and tensions. After the death of Gulab Singh, his son Hari Singh took over the leadership. The current conflict of the region dates to the accession of the princely state of Kashmir in 1947 by its then Dogra ruler against the will of Kashmiris who saw themselves as autonomous from India and Pakistan. As one of the approximately 500 princely states under British India, the decision lied with the new Hindu king whether Kashmir would accede to India or Pakistan, as Kashmir was a Muslim-majority region. Hari Singh implemented a standstill agreement in order to buy time. Soon enough, there was a pressure from both India and Pakistan, a peasant uprising against the king, and the infiltration of Pakistani tribesmen in the region. Hari Singh thus ended up reaching out to the Indian government and Lord Mountbatten, the former British Viceroy of India, that eventually sent troops to fight the tribesmen, hence leading the accession of Kashmir to India. The instrument of accession of Kashmir to India was signed on October 26, 1947, with Pakistan arguing that it was a violation of the standstill agreement. This resulted in a war between India and Pakistani troops from October 27, 1947. In 1948, after the war, India filed a complaint against Pakistan, and thus the United Nations called for a ceasefire in a plebiscite that never ended up taking place. Ignoring the will of the Kashmiri people, and after rigging a series of elections, Kashmir remained under the Indian dominion. In 1950, after the Constitution of India came into effect, Article 370 provided autonomous status to Indian-controlled Kashmir, which was later revoked in August 2019 by the Indian government under Narendra Modi's Hindu nationalist BJP. In 1944, Kashmir's first Prime Minister Sheikh Abdullah published the Naya Kashmir Manifesto, that saw the future of Kashmir under the leadership of the National Conference as socialist, secular, and democratic. The Naya Kashmir Manifesto was focused on investing state resources into education and welfare, specifically for Kashmiri women who tended to be illiterate due to the high inequality of wealth distribution during the Dogra rule. The emergence of Abdullah's leadership saw the redistribution of land, resources, and investment into public institutions. This included opening the first government college for women in Srinagar, Kashmir's capital, in 1950. The early 1990s marked the presence of military forces in Kashmir due to rising tensions between India and Pakistan, as well as frustrations for self-determination amongst Kashmiris, including rigged elections. The militarization of the region saw the presence of sexual violence on Kashmiri women by the military, including mass rapes, as well as enforced disappearances of young men. Additionally, there are thousands of unmarked graves with the bodies of Kashmiri who have died due to extrajudicial killings by the Indian military. As of 2017, there were 3,844 unmarked graves found in Kashmir. The settler colonial project has intensified through the abrogation of Article 370 on August 5, 2009. The article originally exempted Jammu and Kashmir from the Indian Constitution. It allows the Indian-administered Kashmir's region's jurisdiction to make its own laws in all matters except finance, defense, foreign affairs, and communications. It established a separate constitution and a separate flag and denied property rights in the region to outsiders. That meant the residents of the state live under different laws from the rest of the country in matters such as property ownership and citizenship. Additionally, Article 35A was introduced through a presidential order in 1954 to continue old provisions of the territory regulations under Article 370 of the Indian Constitution. This permitted the local legislature in Indian-occupied Kashmir to define permanent residents of the region and forbade outsiders from permanently settling, buying land, holding local government jobs, or winning education scholarships in the region. This article, too, was revoked. The military occupation in Indian-occupied Kashmir remains the most brutal, with over 80,000 deaths and 7,000 enforced mass disappearances since it began in the late 1980s. This is aided by the implementation of ASPA, the Armed Forces Special Powers Act since 1990, which gave the Indian military full control of Kashmir under the grounds of it being a disturbed area. Currently, there is an estimated number of 1 soldier per 30 persons in Kashmir. The abrogation of Article 370 was followed by a blockade of all lines of telecommunications in Kashmir by the Indian government in anticipation of street protests and digital activism by civilians. Through the regulatory power conferred via the Indian Telegraph Act of 1885, the Indian government can issue a temporary suspension of telecom services rules formalized in 2007 to implement orders for telecommunications shutdowns. This act was a plan of the BJP government's plan of creating a Hindu-only settlement within the region. People from the rest of India now have the right to acquire property in Jammu and Kashmir and settle there permanently. The growing powers of India on the region indicate a continuation in the ongoing massacres of Kashmiri Muslims. In terms of proximity to the region, the increased control of the Indian government on matters of Kashmir's defense, foreign affairs, and communications will likely increase military spending on protecting the borders as well as inciting wars with neighboring Pakistan. There are several repercussions for Kashmiris in their aspects of daily life as well as how it relates to their futures. India's ongoing settler project includes effects on climate change and destroying the livelihoods of Kashmiris. This includes the submerging of villages through the creation of dams, including floodings of rivers, such as the floods of the River Jhelum in 2014. The lasting ecological impacts of stunted vegetation, less sunshine, and change to temperature will be devastating. Land theft includes the displacement of Kashmiris through the buying and selling of property from outsiders. Since non-Kashmiris were previously unable to own land, the emergence of new laws will include construction and displacement of peoples from corporations. Surveillance has already been a pre-existing issue, especially as it relates to the monitoring of social media and internet exchanges. Kashmiris have utilized social media to both mobilize and convey relevant information regarding the human rights abuses in the region. In instances where direct monitoring and surveillance has been difficult due to the data encryption on platforms such as WhatsApp, Kashmiris have been forced to issue and register their WhatsApp group chats with local authorities to monitor any communications that would be, quote-unquote, provoking the youth and creating law and order problems. The internet lockdowns in Kashmir were especially brutal in accessing day-to-day services and necessities. This includes medical systems for doctors, schools being unable to access resources, and people being unable to contact their families. This was especially prevalent during the COVID-19 pandemic, which caused a lack of supplies and inability to access the Kashmiri population. Kashmiris are protesting and resisting the ongoing violence by the Indian military. Youth are on the streets, while civil society organizations are working on the ground to collect information about ongoing human rights abuses in the region. Journalists who are highly targeted and who are at the risk of imprisonment by the authoritative Indian state